first, thank you for coming here to my session. It's really great to be here, and I'm really thankful for Nicolas to invite me to be here. It was a great pleasure. So my name is Yi-Wen Lin, but most of people just call me by Wen. It's easier. I'm a freelance creative coder, and I'm based in London right now. And so first thing first, that's my Twitter handle. So if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter. And also, I'll be posting these slides on my Twitter later today. It depends on how drunk I am tonight. And so, yeah, you will be able to get the slides. So let's start it. Today, I'm going to talk about another dimension. It's not about time or real physics. It's more about the experiment I made. I started to explore some ideas more about the optical illusions. I'm going to show you some examples that I built that sort of like trick your mind, and then also just hide small things in your work, and then you make people to discover them. And I found it very interesting that to have this small surprise in the project, and then people are enjoying this and then trying to find things themselves as well. It's all started with Codember 2 years ago. Codember is activities for developers that they build one experiment per day for the whole November, and it's really intense. Is anyone doing Codember right now? Yes? Cool, yeah, of course. And yeah, so you guys must understand how intense it is. So I've done twice in the past few years. And then, so a little trick for this is when you start it, because you want to produce a huge amount of work in a really short amount of time. So what you need to do, the first step is that you want to try to gather as much as material as you can, as much as reference or the image you like, because often if you start looking for new ideas after you finish one, most likely you're going to be too late, because you have to build it, you have to test it, you have to try, and it's going to take time. So before I start the Codember, I start to gather around the image I like, the image I think I can achieve in one day, and then I put them into a Pinterest board. And then during the Codember, I start to look around, and then I gather these images. And I found myself really interested into the optical illusions. So for example, the one like that, you can only see the portrait when you are at a certain angle. And it's the same thing with this one. So if you come from different direction, it'll be just random shape. But until you move to the right point, and then suddenly something appears. And I'm really interested into this idea. And also, the same concept, you can find it in the shadows. So you have a random object just floating in the space. But once you have the light and the shadow, it actually reveals something else. And so during that Codember, I was so inspired by this idea of optical illusions. So I start to try different ideas and try to create them. And then here are some results. I hope it works. So, for example, this one is, yeah, click it. It's a guy looking into the mirror, but the whole background is black. But the only place you can see the background is actually in the mirror itself, and then it's a two-way mirror. So this is the illusion I've been talking about, or another dimension I'm talking about, is that it's hidden but only visible from certain angle, or only visible in certain place. And then you create this kind of like fantasy world, and then we can play with. And also like this one. So you won't be able to see anything until you change the background to black, and then the wings reveals. But if you just turn it to the white background, then you cannot see anything. And then for me, that's the surprise I want to give to my user. And also, sort of encourage them to play with your experience and try to find the little surprise for themselves. And also, this one. Do you know this thing called zooscope? It's like a roulette thing, and then when you spin really fast, you start to see the animation. And this is coming from that idea. So you have a bunch of images, and then it doesn't make too much sense until you start spinning it. And then you see the video behind it, it starts moving, it starts dancing and become colorful. But again, if you stop, it will come back to the normal form. So it's because it's only 8 frames here, or 16, I can't remember. And then so you need to spin it, and then it starts to reveal something. So this is another dimension I meant, and then I really enjoy working with this idea and just trying to just sneak things into the unexpected places and that user to discover. So in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about some technique, so more technical stuff. Some technique I use to create this illusion. They're really simple technique, but it helps a lot, like to build your own story or your experiments. So the first one I'm going to talk about is texture projection, and it's actually part of the shadow mapping. The idea is that you want to project a texture from a certain point of view. So when we look at the thing like this, so it's based on that reference image I put on the left-hand side, as you only reveal the shape of the image when you move to the right angle. Can you guys see it? Is it okay? Oh, okay, cool. And so to do this, you almost feel like you want to project a texture from that point. That point is the point of our camera. And then if you move to that point, you can see the perfect image. And so that's how the texture projection will help us. So basically what you want is that you literally just create a camera from this position. And then the camera, you can get the projection matrix and the view matrix, and then you multiply them together and then apply on the surface position. You get the screen coordinate, and then you can use this coordinate to project the texture on top of it. And I'm going to mention that I will put some code online after this. So here I just want to go through the concept. But if you guys are interested in the code, I will post it online so you can grab it. But I just want to go through the concept here. I don't want to bother you with my messy code. And so let's continue. So basically, once you know how to project texture onto the surface, then it's the whole playground for you. So for this one, the way I built it, the first step is I just throw a bunch of pillars in the world, just like that. And then next step, we do the texture projection, and then I put the texture on. And then, yeah, if you move to the right place, you can see you can reveal the real picture. By the way, this is the closest image I can get for Nicolas. And next, I just scale the pillars based on the brightness of the pixel. So the darker it is, I just scaled it down. And then you have this really interesting effect. And then, yeah, when you move to the right place, the image reveals. So I'm going to show you a couple of more examples or project I was using this technique. This is another one. It's inspired by a game called The Unfinished Swan. Has anyone played it? Yeah, so you know how great that game is. So basically, when you enter the world, there's nothing. It's a pure blank. You cannot see anything. The only thing you can do is just throwing inks and then create splash. And then once you start doing this, it starts revealing the shape of your world. And then you can start moving around, do another, and move around. And then suddenly, you get a picture of the world. So I was when I saw the game, I was really fascinated by the idea. But at that time, I really don't know how to do it until I discovered this texture projection. And it's actually easy. It's actually quite easy to build. So every ink drop, you just create a texture projection from that ink drop. And then just put the splash texture on it. And then it would work. And then it's such a beautiful effect, and it's such interesting effect as well. And I think more importantly, it helps us to find a different way to tell a story, a more interesting way for us to tell the story, and then let the user to discover the world themselves. And next project, it's a project I built for Good Boy when I was in Good Boy. So it's a similar concept. Thanks. It's a similar concept, and then so there are stories hidden in this world. So when you spin around, you see some fractions, a fragment of the image, and then you're wondering what it is, and it won't reveal until you move to the right angle. And then when you align everything together, then it appears. And so the way I built it is still using the same texture projection trick. And then just instead of one, I'm using 4 from 4 different angles, and then project the textures from those points. And then the beauty thing of this is that it's a different way for us to show the story. And I don't know how clear you guys can see here. As there's some cubes here. Can you see this? And that's actually a visual bug. It's caused when you do the transparency ordering wrong. So normally you want to render the transparent thing after you render the solid thing. But if you render it in the wrong order, it actually causes like these blanks. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in the coming slides. But in this case, me and my friend, we think it's actually enhanced the illusion of the space. So we decided to keep it. And that's the final place. And the other thing I like about this approach is that you can perfectly blend in the 3D world and the 2D world, because basically you're projecting a 2D texture onto your scene. But as long as you are in the right spot, your 2D image will be perfect like this. It will be perfect. And then so it's actually when I was working this with my designer friend, he's really enjoying this as well, because it's really easy for him to control the outcome. He would definitely sure like he's going to get the thing he wants. So this one it's just pure shadow mapping. So just you will see okay, it might be too loud, but there's just a random pieces floating in the air and then rotating. But once you kind of touch them, and then you can reveal the portrait in the shadow. Cool. I should kill this. So far, so good? Awesome, thanks. So I'm going to move on to next things. Is the core phase. this is another trick I use to help me to build this experiment. The code phase is when you are rendering in WebGL or any 3D OpenGL stuff, normally you will only render the front face of the surface, and we don't render the back face for gaining the performance. So if you move into the model, most of the time you will see nothing because the back face is not being rendered. And actually, it's not only you can turn on and off on this, but also you can control which side you want to draw. You can decide to draw the front face, or you can just draw the back face. And this actually helped me in certain circumstances. And also, combining this with the transparency sorting things I mentioned about, it's actually helped me to build some of my experience. So the first thing I want to show you is this Doctor Who tunnel effect that you're moving into the tunnel, and then it goes to the another world. So the first thing you want to do is just to create a cone shape like this. And then so when you look inside, you can look inside and then create that tunnel effect. And then so this is what I mean by drawing the front face, and the back face is not visible. So you can see here, that's the front face of the 3D model. So it's rendering perfectly. But this side, that's actually the back side of the cone. So when you look inside, you won't see anything. So that's not what we want. What we want is that we only want to see the inside, but not the outside. So now we can flip it. So now you only see the inside of the cone. And that's exactly what we want. And then next steps, you can start throwing textures and then animating them and add all the effects you want. And then, but still, it looks good, but still it's not what we want. It's still, we want only a disk, right? We don't want this part. So we don't want this transparent red part. And what I do is that I render the cone again with the transparent color. But this is with the right order, the right transparency order, so it looks normal. But if I flip the order, then that part will be masked by this transparent surface. And if I turn this into complete transparent, then this is the effect we are after. So you can move around, and then when you move to the back side, it disappears, and you're only visible in the front side. So that's what I'm talking about, the code phase. And this thing is actually, it's really simple tricks. But if you know how to play with this, it can definitely help you to create some really cool effect. And also they are really efficient as well. You don't need like a really fancy shader to do anything. All you need to do is just playing with the drawing order and the coding phase. And so I'm going to show you another example using this technique. So for this experiment, I was actually inspired by one project on the Sketchfab. I'm going to put a link somewhere, I don't know. But basically, it's a 3D comics. But when you arrive at the page, this is what you see. So you see, it looks like a normal 2D comics. But when you start moving, then you suddenly realize, wow, each block, it has its own world. And then you can play with it, and then rotating around, discover the world. And you can even go to the back side. And when I saw that experience on Sketchfab, it's actually, I was so amazed by it because I'm a manga lover, I'm a comic lover. And then when I saw it, I feel, wow, suddenly I think it opens a lot of door to the comic books. Because now we used to feel like, okay, this is just 2D, it's the 4 blocks is one story. But now suddenly I feel each block could have its own story. it doesn't restrained by the friend anymore. There's a whole new world in each block. So I'm really fascinated by this idea, and I started trying to do that myself. And at the beginning, I was so afraid, and I thought, wow, it's going to be very complicated, and how can I achieve this? But actually, it turns out it's simpler than I imagined. So the first step will be just loading your 3D models, just naturally, any models will do. And then next thing, you start to putting blocks for each part. And here, again, we are only drawing the front face of the block. So if you look from the inside, the top is being called. So you want to make sure that you're drawing both faces, so we can start hiding things in our scene. And then once you do that, just turn it white. Just turn it into your background color, and then it suddenly start feeling like the effect we're after. So the background is another really powerful thing that you can use to hide things. For example, like the Unfinished Swan project, it's just the 3D model is there. It's always there, but it's the same color with the background, so you don't see it's here, it's there. But here it's the same idea. We just use the background color to hide things. And then the next thing you need to do is just to apply these outline shaders. Outline shaders onto your 3D model, and then suddenly it looks great. It looks like the comic books now. It's really simple, and you can create something, some really cool effect with these outline shaders. Cool. Okay. So far, so good? Okay. So these are the experiments I made during that Codember, and just playing with the illusions and the projection things. And then I start to wondering, it would be great to see some of this effect in real life. Because it feels right if I can see these like another dimension thing just right here. And so I start thinking about AR, because for me, I feel some of the experience will go really well with AR. Because what I want to do is trying to create another world. But what's the best way to achieve that is that you're building another world in the existing world, right? So then you know, like, wow, this is really something from another place. So I start throwing ideas in AR. So this is the first thing I try. I don't know if you have seen this in the museum. It's a statue, and no matter how you move, it's always looking at you or always facing you. But actually, it's inside out. So I'm not actually rotating the model at all. I just draw the whole model inside out. And this is probably the illusion 101 for everyone. And then for AR, it's really fun to play with AR. Basically just throwing some random stuff floating on your desk, and it looks cool. And it's really fun to see something appear out of nowhere from your desk, even if there's nothing related to your daily life. And so after those, I start thinking about how I can interact with my AR content. Because I don't want just looking at something cool and floating there and say, whoa, yeah, good. I want something more. I want the user able to play with the experiment. So with AR, the biggest way or the most intuitive way to interact is actually just moving the camera. You're just looking from different angle, right? And remember what we talked about the texture projection is that we try to project the texture from another camera. So that's camera as well. So that's where I feel like these would be a good fit, because all you do is just moving the camera. It's the same concept. So I start to playing with the idea using your camera to navigate or to interact. So this is the first one. I want to create try to create a two-world effect. So you only see this on one side, but when you move to the other side, there's nothing. So it's just simply using your camera as a way of interaction, and then to discover things. And then, of course, try that the tunnel effect again in AR. And then, of course, this time I throw in more work in the shaders, make it look cooler. And then a sinkhole out of nowhere, I don't know why. But anyway, it just looks cool on your desk to have a hole on your desk. And then next thing, the next project I'm going to show you is part of my experiments with AR and all these illusion thing. It's based on the koi fishes. So my father-in-law, he owns a koi farm. Wow, I have new followers. Nice. He owns a koi farm, and so I took this video a couple of years ago, and that's the perfect flocking, the perfect swarming behavior. You cannot top this. It's the best. Everything is perfect. The way they swirl, the way they move together, the way they interact with each other is just perfect. And then the best part about this is they are even interactive. So you can play with it. You can play with this system. So they will scatter away, and then they will follow your hand because they think you are going to feed them. And then you can really just play with them. And that's all us, the developer, would after, right? The perfect flocking simulation, perfect rendering, and perfect interaction. So that's the best thing I can imagine. So I was so inspired by this, and I always want to create a project using this idea. So it would be simple. I just want the fish will get around either your cursor or yourself. And then I want to throw in a little bit illusion there. I want to feel that the fish will emerge from the floor around you, but then if you move away, and then it will dive into whatever the surface it is. So I created this project. So they will move with your cursor, and they will sort of like moving up from another place and then moving or dive back in. And it's a really simple project, and it's actually really easy to make as well. And again, the way I make this, like diving into the surface, is using the transparency sorting bug again. So all I do is I render a transparent floor like this. And if I render it in the right order, this is what you see. And it's like every 3D thing we see is perfectly right, perfectly normal. But what we want is something different. So I just reverse the order. I draw the transparent thing first, and then draw the fish after. And then suddenly it creates this kind of magic effect that the fish is coming out of nowhere. But the good thing about this is that it can work with any background. So you don't need to care about the background, because they are hidden by that transparent layer. And you don't need to actually try to cover them with any surface or cover them with colors. And then also I've been playing with this idea and just throwing textures. I made these ink textures a couple of years ago from another project, and I just feel like it fits with this idea. I don't know if you have seen any Chinese koi fish painting. This looks exactly like that. And it's really, I just project the texture onto the fish, and it looks just like the paintings. So after this, of course, I want to see in AR. So I want to see the fish coming out of the floor. So I did a quick test. So it's just a quick test. I just, again, using the camera as a way to interact and then make the fish follow you. And then, so the next thing, I still want to try to push it a little bit further. I want to make a small installation with this idea. So I took out my projector, and then there's a Kinect here, and then use the Kinect to capture the position of the user and do a little bit calibration, and then send it back to the project and use that as a cursor. And it's all done in my backyard. And I really enjoy making installation. And then I start letting the kids play with this. And here's the result. So that's the last bit of this experiment, but I'm really enjoying it. I mean, the first thing is that it's all based on the same code base. So for WebGL AR, I'm using WebAR, so it's JavaScript with WebGL. And also this installation is still using WebGL. I just created another small node server, sending the position of the user to a node server, and then to the WebGL. And the second thing is that I really enjoy building things for kids. It's the best because they are so easy to satisfy. Anything moves for them is magic. So I feel so proud of myself. And I've been doing this for a couple of years, just use my kids as an experiment target, audience, whatever. And then for the past few years, they're just playing around, and they don't even care what's happening. They just, yeah, anything is fun for them. And then this year, I discovered that that's my daughter. She started filming things herself. And you can see her just moving around and filming and then taking pictures. And it's really fascinating for me because I start to see how she sees my work, how she feels about the project, and how she sees the world. It's an amazing experience. I really encourage everyone to do that. And you see, like, the thing you need is actually not that much. All you need is a projector. And if you're Kinect, that's great. But if you're not, that's OK. And then anything looks better with big scale. Just have anything projected on the big screen, and then suddenly it looks immersive. So, OK, the last one. I hope I have enough time. This is the last project I'm going to talk about. So for the people who knows me, you know I enjoy making particle systems. And then when I started AR, I started thinking, that's one of the things I started thinking as well, what I can do with particles in AR. I mean, this is one of the things I try, is that Dr. Strange effect. You have the sparkling particles and then something coming out from another world. So I just throw a little bit distortion in that. So that's cool. But then this year, we discovered this storybook for our kids. There are so many amazing storybooks for kids. Really, you can find a lot of inspiration in there. Like this one, it's drawing completely using dots, and it's with different colors of dots, and it's so beautiful. It looks like the season we have right now. You have not just the green, you have the green, the yellow, the orange, the red, and it looks so beautiful. And the whole book is painted with this style. And then this is one of my favorite part in the book, that you can see the light, even it's just dots, you still can feel well, there's light coming out from that object. So this really inspired me, and then made me think, what can I do? Or how can I reproduce this effect? And what kind of project I can build with this effect? And then a friend of mine shared this video with me, and I was, again, so amazed and inspired by this video. It's a guy, he's 3D scanning through the gallery, and then use the point cloud to reconstruct and then make a video of it. I'm not going to show it now, because if you see this first, you'll think my work is shit. So I want to show you my stuff first, and I'll use this as a closing. So the first idea I have is that I don't know how to get the point cloud from AR. If you know how to do that, please let me know. And so I do not know the physical position, but what I can do is just throwing a bunch of particles into the world. And then with the particles, I know it's a screen position or screen coordinate. And then I can use the screen coordinate to sample the background, which is your webcam feed. And this is the first result I got. So it creates this really interesting effect when you start moving around, and then it's sort of like things break apart, and then you can move into the space. And then I think the interesting bit is that when you come back and then try to align everything together again, and then you create some really interesting visual, sort of like a glitch or something. And so I'm going to show you a little bit how I build this. So first, this is just a template as a dome or a skybox. And then first step, throwing a lot of particles into the world, like that. And then second is to grab the screen position. So you have that's 0, 0, that's 1, and 1 there. And then basically you can just use this to sample from the background. And then no matter how you move, it stays the same. So it's 0, 0 there, and 1, 1. So it will work. And then so when you start sampling from the background, already you have something really interesting here. And then you move around. And then that looks cool. But what we're after is that we don't want the color of the pixel that keep updating. So you want to lock it. And then when you once you lock it and start moving, then you create this really, really beautiful effect. And when you zoom out, it's really fun to see this as well. It's sort of like a ray, like bursting to the space. And so you can take from another angle and then do it again. So I really like this effect. I think it's a good base. And so what I did next is that I just add in the user position in. So when I move, the particles move behind me, I'll make them reappear in front of me. And then when they reappear in front of me, I will sample the background again. So I did a quick recording from my place to the top of the hill. I really don't know how to get a good quality of video with particles from my phone. If anyone knows any trick, please let me know, because I have to scale this down because it looks shit if I put it in full screen. And but that's what I got for now. And I'm quite happy with what I have right now, like without the real point cloud data. But of course, there's a long way to go. Here, I want to show you this video as the end of my talk. And you'll see what the angle is. So now you know why I don't want to show this earlier. It just looks so great. And that's, of course, is something I want to achieve in the future. But for now, there's a lot of challenges for me, but I'll try to conquer them. But again, thanks for everyone for coming. And then thanks, Nicolas, for having me.